Warning: the video you are about to view contains delicate information that has been passed down for generations. Some viewers may consider this information to be disturbing or even terrifying. Viewer discretion is advised. Since the dawning of man, we have been intrigued by spiritualism. We know about priests and how they worship the Holy Father and the Holy Son, celebrating the Last Supper and honoring He who had died for our sins. But when we look at the time before, there was already talk of spirits, devils, ghosts, and ancestors watching over us. Native American shamans would use incense, for example, to exorcise dark energies from their people by a process called smudging. They knew that there is more to our world than the physical eye can see.
I'm not crazy. I've been here and shit.
The map board your artwork is mounted to.
In the previous episode, we have tried to contact a form of protection. Assuming that this has happened, I want to give you a tool used by ghost hunters all around the world. It is the best protection that you can imagine, and a very important one at that. We call it debunking. Humans are an amazing race, but sometimes we are confronted with a very thin line, a line between truth and madness. There are a lot of stimuli that can explain something. If you feel a cold draft, be sure to check the source of the draft. Give it your absolute best to debunk an observation. If we believe that every knock or breeze is paranormal, we will never discover the truth. We have to be our own critic. High magnetic energies can cause paranoia, a large generator or a crawling space with a lot of power cables that can bring high magnetic fields. This is where the K2 or EMF meter shows itself to be an irreplaceable tool. It will show you the presence of an entity, maybe, but it will also show you the presence of a high magnetic field that could cause paranoia or a feeling of being watched. Orbs of light are absolutely awesome, but specks of dust reflecting light are a lot more common. We would go mad if we didn't debunk. Check things like what material expands or shrinks under temperature difference, causing possible noises. And when all debunking fails, we grab a different tool. A spirit box or ghost box can't really be debunked, as they are designed to make contact. They are the complete opposite of debunking. Though it can be debunked as coincidence, it accentuates a fine line between madness and truth. It is often why an EVP recorder is used to cite it, so it can be analyzed in detail. But it doesn't always work. Sometimes things can be heard live by several people, but leaving no trace at all on the EVP recording. I tried it with a few friends. We just left the ghost box running with an EVP recorder next to it. We asked questions in turn. We would listen for a minute, write down anything we heard, and let the next person ask a question. A lot of similarities had been found in those writings, but when we listened to the actual EVP recording, none of those were found. If you work in the field, you probably know this. Full batteries just run dry, and even a piece of audio or video can simply vanish from your device. It has frustrated me many times. I have learned to call this spectrum evidence, as it can be interpreted as evidence, but it cannot be used as, well, evidence. It can be debunked as the device is broken or a coincidence, but eventually, even if you are sure it's evidence, you cannot prove it. You can only declare things like, "I heard it say hello," or "My new battery has run dry after only 5 minutes."
Completely drained.
It's on the spectrum, but can only be discarded as actual scientific evidence. These experiences can be noted by manner of writing or video recording. Though we can't use it as tangible evidence, we can use it to learn more about the entity. On a side note, EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon.
Warm spirits. Warm spirits. Warm spirits. Warm spirits.
And can be encountered by any device that records audio. An EVP recorder is an adjusted recorder that has extra functions like white noise, echo, and/or directional functions. They will increase the chances of capturing EVP and are designed to do so. So basically, if you record a spirit box session with a camera, you will capture both spectrum evidence and tangible evidence.
In case you haven't been around us tonight and you've been somewhere else, his name is Mark.
What husband?
You know his name?
So eventually, recording and debunking will keep your mind at peace. I cannot stress enough how thin this line between madness and truth can be. Well then, are you ready to give debunking a try? Here goes.
Is your name Zozo?
Now, this video is very well done and seems legit. But take a look at the person who's writing things down.
Zozo. Zozo the clown.
Notice anything weird? The person that is writing down the session notes puts his pen away before even knowing what's going to happen. Why would you put your pen away during a very active and responsive session? The so-called entity hasn't shown himself yet, but for some reason the person writing down the findings is getting ready to act on cue. And so, debunked. Now, there are some dedicated and real researchers out there like Simon Mounds, Mark Smith and Mark Johnson. But unfortunately, there are even more creative minds, making it harder to find a legit video or even a legit investigator. We don't need a large film studio and millions worth of special effects anymore, because we can do it simply at home. A legit investigator will explore new ways of contact or measuring, and suffer through constant bombardment, varying from entities that attack or change attachment, to skeptics and scientists calling them out and questioning every resource. And even if the evidence is real, 100% clear and undeniable, people will still find a way to prove that it's a hoax. I would like to give you somewhat of an example of this. Dr. Duncan McDougall, who tried to weigh the human soul, through a highly unorthodox method, he gathered willing patients who would be weighed at the exact time of death. On April 10, 1901, Dr. McDougall aimed to show that the human soul has a mass. Special large custom scales were made, allowing the scale to carry the bed and the dying patient. He found 5 men and 1 woman that were diagnosed with an assured death. Under the eye of 4 doctors, he conducted the experiment on his first subject. This is what he stated about his findings. Suddenly, coincident with death, the beam end dropped with an audible stroke, hitting against the lower limiting bar and remained there with no rebound. The loss was ascertained to be 3/4 of an ounce. Everything from the air to the body fluids were accounted for, but still there was a difference in weight that couldn't be explained. At repeating the experiment on the second patient, he stated, "The instant life ceased, the opposite scale pan fell with a suddenness that was astonishing, as if something had suddenly been lifted from the body." After calculating the weight loss, Dr. McDougall still couldn't explain the remaining loss of weight. Continuing to discuss the findings with his 4 colleagues, Dr. McDougall kept measuring the remaining patients only to find that a weight of 21 grams would still be unaccounted for. Did he weigh the human soul? As a scientist, he tried to explain the weight loss. He tried to lay on the bed himself, blowing out, simulating the last breath of a dying patient. The loss of fluid and other matters were calculated because they would never leave the scale. Eventually, he was forced to keep his research a secret for 6 years until 1907, where the New York Times published his results. Now, this is a time that Darwin had just come along to explain his evolution theory. The fundamental Christian belief was shaken, and it raised a lot of controversy among the church. Many believed that these experiments were sacrilege. Eventually, he was unable to continue his experiments. Dr. Duncan McDougall passed away on October 15, 1920, at the age of 54. Now, I'm not saying that he actually measured the soul, but still he measured something unexplainable. However, years after his death, scientists step up to tell what is wrong with his experiments, or what he didn't include in them. However, they are still not able to explain what exactly he had measured. So viewer, be ready, because even though you may find all the evidence you're looking for, you may also lose a few things, of course including your mind.